What's up, viewers, subscribers, and agents alike? It's your boy Enlightened Luciferian Prince coming at y'all once again. If you're watching this video around children, please remove them from your immediate vicinity. Or if you're watching this in your own private venue, as far as headphones are concerned, whatever, that's fine. But I always stress the emphasis that these videos are not for children. Okay. I'm going to call this Super Saturday. And I'm going to try to do as much as I can to basically do as many uploads within this 24-hour period as I can. I have to do this because I know that YouTube, unfortunately, due to the algorithm, has been shadow banning content, has been totally not allowing, certain messages to come through the airwaves, and it's fine. Because it's not like I'm banned, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't have that many followers, so to speak. I had that much of a following. But it's just that the information in which I actually disseminate to people is not very popular, which is fine as well, because that's going according to the plan anyway. Certain things aren't for everybody. And as long as distinctions in mentality exist, as long as distinctions in education exist, as long as distinctions in understanding exist, as long as distinctions in personal dedication exist, then guess what? Everybody ain't gonna get it, and that's a resolution that I'm perfectly fine with. I do not care. That's just the truth. That's the truth. I would never be naive and think that everybody's gonna get it all at one time. That's not how this works. Okay, people? So, on to the first one. The important note that you need to understand, and this is the title of the video, important note, is that the banking system in America, to mention, one area is addressed by a lot of things I say on my channel, is a fraudulent enterprise. I will say that again. The banking system in America, to mention, one area addressed by this so-called discourse on my video, is a fraudulent enterprise. That is why the processes that I talk about are so effective at eliminating claims of debt. Credit lenders never loan anything of substance, and hence cannot withstand the simplest examination of their practices, cannot legally support their claims, and give up sooner or later. That's what I say, sooner or later. Depending on their interest level in the particular transaction, the monetary system has been designed expressly for creating defaults and foreclosures and bankruptcies. And it's working exactly as it's supposed to. People, and companies as well, are being picked off left and right in greater and greater numbers. We are literally in the middle of a national epidemic at the hands of money, power, and its minions. The only reason you do not hear more about it is because of the managed news media, another vital cog in Big Brother's machinery. The main reason that there's never a large number of testimonials as far as people who have successes with these processes is because, it's a threefold application, and this is where a lot of people fail. The full scale application, not partial, full scale, of the procedures contained herein has been underway, more so for more than a few years, based on the time required to reach the required ideology to research, develop, test, and perfect the documents and procedures contained within those people who have the information. I ran through a lot of people over the past few years who have applied a paltry approach to actually trying to redeem themselves from the commercial system. I've known that so many people have this lackadaisical approach to this. And this is something that you're supposed to involve yourself in full scale. But people say you can lead a horse to water, but I'll be honest to you. You don't have to lead a horse to water. When a horse is thirsty, it doesn't need human intervention. It takes its own ass to the motherfucking riverbank and drink, or spring or wherever, and drinks from it. It doesn't need human intervention. So that saying in and of itself is a misnomer. Okay? So if you're not willing to do it, then, like I said before, these videos are not for you. You can watch them as entertainment or for informational purposes. But as far as the application of what's talked about therein, don't even bother. 2, there's a time lag involved in actually acquiring the legal title for both houses and cars. Even though former creditors may cease all collection activity much earlier in the process. And 3, there is nothing very exciting to write about when credit card companies and other debt collectors simply drop all claims, stop communicating, and go away. That's why I try to tell people about the whole credit procedure. The credit cards, a credit in and of itself can be fixed instantaneously. And that's what I'm going to do in my next video to show you how simplistic it is. The one reason why I do not use credit cards is because the moment you do, you place yourself under obligation. And then, because credit is loaned into thin air, you're under the auspices that you actually have an amount that you can actually spend and utilize, but in reality, you're using an IOU. Your interest-bearing payments would come from your economic labor, which comes from your wealth, which comes from your employment, which comes from your energy, which is your currency. Notice the word currency, which is basically what they're going to use to base their amount that they're going to get rich off of giving you nothing. And 3, we already went over that. Now, credit card companies are the easiest to handle. And I just said it. Because credit cards have no value. I just said it. And credit card claims are 100% unsupportable and evaporate upon proper challenge. Debt collector type style, and when another company has purchased the account from the original creditor, is also very easy. Such as bills, like hospital bills, so forth and so on. Doctor's bills, privatized bills, third-party entities. They've already been sold to a debt collection agency, and trust me, they've already paid the debt. They're just trying to get interest off of you. But that's another thing we'll get to later on in the video. The only time things get sticky is when these type of accounts end up in a lawsuit and the courts have gotten involved. All hope is not lost, people. Stay tuned. Mortgages, on the other hand, are another matter because of the value involved. Mortgage lenders are more likely to go down fighting, which is on a tier system. That is the hardest, and I'm not even going to lie to you. But so far, they always go down because they cannot prove they have a valid claim in a loan transaction, which in and of itself is a whole nother can of worms. A tiny minority of situations are not within the realm of rescue because of fatal mistakes made by the debtor, and so are not attempted, but those take it on that are factional failures because handlings are based on the truth of the matter. Some just take a little longer than others. They can get drawn out because creditors don't want to let go and give up. It may be too much of a shock when a lender realizes that someone has figured out his racket and that he might have to stop robbing people and actually find an honest work. Another definite factor causing creditors and judges and attorneys alike to beat a hasty retreat is the penalty for unauthorized use for the borrower's private common law copyrighted property, which is your name. For various reasons, the system is bringing the activities of financial pirates under control. It also works in other situations where one's name is now being used for financial gain, which in and of itself, whether you all realize it or not, your name is actually being used for financial gain, and you may not even be aware of it. But that is your homework to do in any aspect and realm of your research to find out how and exactly it's being used. It also works in handling the lenders, but it also seems to be the most that is popular in use right now. What you have to understand is that a lot of these entities that you deal with, and I know that people have been watching my channel for years, and I know that I had to have been tested by the fire because unfortunately, sometimes you get aligned with some of the more wrong negative energy that's in the world. It is what it is. You know, that's why I prefer to be by my damn self in most cases, because at least I know if I'm operating myself in my capacity and I don't have to worry about nobody else putting me in some sort of situation. But unfortunately, this is the world we live in. There's billions of people here, and sometimes we cannot avoid them. Or the energy, more or less, not really the people. But let's go into what I was talking about in the previous video about the UCC. The Uniform Commercial Code is the subject of what we're talking about on my channel. It is a transcendent paramount achievement of the efforts of few thousands of intensely dedicated and single-minded collaborators. Dare you call it a conspiracy? Give me a second, I'll close this. Over the last 2+ millennia, in the culmination of almost incomprehensibly complex, systematic, intricate, pervasive, and far-reaching agenda of strategic and tactical global planning for securing absolute... Hold on, it's not responding. Come on now. Close it. for securing the absolute legal, financial, social, ecclesiastical, and political dominance over the earth. Notice what it said. It said the agenda of strategic and tactical global planning for securing absolute legal comes first, far-reaching agenda, which is of this financial, social, ecclesiastical, and political dominance. So it's all multifaceted over the people of the earth. The fundamental medium chosen to accomplish these iniquitous aims, commerce. The UCC, first introduced in 1954, has been developed across the centuries with microscopically, excruciatingly, and painstaking attention to detail for avoiding forever risk of detection and reevaluation of its true nature. It was fully expected that the code should never be found. Proof of this fact are the absences of any device mechanism for the enforced reversal of process and recapture of the slaves who managed to break free. Incredibly, the development of the UCC has been so brilliantly orchestrated by illegal masses of the world that even though it permeates and dominates the everyday lives and activities of every man, woman, and child in this world, from conception to casket, as well as virtually every other living soul on the planet, and even though it is the most senior form of codified law throughout the world, encompassing all others, frame of reference, see UCC 1-103. The UCC is a cultural obscurity, blending in with societal scenery so well that it does not even raise an eyebrow upon mention. Damn, it's so subtle. And now y'all believe what I say, that this is something you were never even supposed to know about in the first place. Now you see what I'm saying. Even general members of the bar, lawyers, attorneys, solicitors, advocates, and barristers, i.e. foot soldiers, snipers, and assassins of the bank generals that wage war upon the world, are for the most part ignorant of its far-reaching applications and implications which dominate even their lives as well. Likely you've never heard of the Uniform Commercial Code until it's brought to your attention, like YouTube, or maybe a coworker, or maybe a close relative or family member, or maybe you might have stumbled upon it upon your own venture in life. But in and of itself, it was born to your life by attention by someone with the express purpose of revealing its influence over your life. As an interest side note, what you have to understand is that when these interesting people that we know very little to nothing about as a societal whole have constructed this, they constructed it with a specific intent to mislead you, to deceive you into making you believe that statutes, codes, rules, obligations, contracts, and regulations are the law. And they try to encompass the word law as it being all of those things. And we, being, unscrupulous to the whole matter, we believe that it was law at one point in time of our lives. We have to admit it. No one was born knowing this shit. Okay? So all these people who call themselves gurus, and I hate using that word because they've often in the spiritual community let down many people by a false belief. I hate that word. I would rather people use the word scholar as far as a person who is studious and has done their research, as opposed to guru, who is just a person who comes upon the internet and performs as a personality. Doesn't give you facts, doesn't give you evidence, doesn't give you anything. But this is what most people have encountered on these wavelengths. I don't care if it was YouTube, I don't care if it was Twitter, I don't care if it was Facebook, I don't care if it was by Zoom, I don't care what it was by. It was always some entity that could never or would never really go in depth with what this is actually supposed to be used for and why its purpose is necessary. It was more so keeping you intrigued in order for them to gain some sort of advantage over you, i.e. financially, in order to make you his or her slave. Trust me, people, those are what we call company men. Those are people who really don't want to take the time to really break down to you what it is. And not to mention, they're never really going to tell you what it is, because on certain legal aspects, it is considered, people call it freedom of speech, but in the legal spectrum, you have to be honest in reality that you really can't govern someone else's life by advice, because you have to realize what I say I'm responsible for, because if I tell it to you, you're going to act upon it. That's why I stress and emphasize upon research materials for you to do it yourself. Do it yourself. Don't rely upon someone else's ideology. Question everything. And especially question, test, research, apply. And then you'll start seeing results. I tell people, don't take my word for it. You won't know this stuff works until you try it. But you have to come to a level of understanding of how it works. If you don't know how it works or why it works, then you're never going to get there. You can perfect all the documentation in the world. You can pay as many fiat notes as you want. But if you don't have the understanding on how this stuff works or the literacy to understand how it works, you're a lost cause. But let's go further. Here we go. That's one reason why I tell people, if you watch this from kids, hold on. Every whore has a price, and this type is no exception. Judges and attorneys, esquires, have literally sold their souls to the devil, hypothetically speaking, for the inside track and a few easy bucks. Since they are owned, they can never access sovereignty. Say that again. Since they are owned, they can never access sovereignty. Just like the whore. They have no personal freedom till the customer is satisfied that he got what he paid for. For esquires, it's a lifetime affair. With the crown and the so-called palace behind it, assessing sovereignty requires that an esquire renounce his or her so-called license to practice law and his or her relationship with the privately owned judicial system and cease practicing as an esquire altogether. A cure more unpleasant than bearing the disease for most such whores. Nearly all will carry on, a few may break away. Esquires also fortuitously believe that they are immune against attacks from the little people, as you will know from the Tin Man and the quote-unquote Wizard of Oz, which is the taxpayer identification number. And, as you will discover in the practical portion of what I'm getting ready to say, the laws of commerce are heartless and apply equally with all, including attorneys and judges. You have to realize, you have to learn the truth. Go back to my video about ye wretched hordes. You'll understand what I'm saying, corpus juris secundum. Any judge attorney who attempts using your private copyrighted trade name for financial gain without first obtaining your express written authorization and consent faces the same legal commercial consequences as anyone else. Cataclysmic personal financial ruin, because in commerce, all are equal under the law. Judges, though esquires, are a different creature, and attorneys and receive a special training in Reno, Nevada. National Judicial College, over 3,500 judges trained each year in Scottsdale, Arizona. Sometimes hundreds of hours over their careers for learning better ways of applying the UCC in the courtroom and handling the dissidents and unruly slaves who set off a bad example for other paying customers, i.e. defendants. This is a genius of the legal masses of the world. The populace and even many of the bar attorneys themselves believe that the law being practiced in the courtroom is the law, as I said earlier in my video. The only law being administered in the courtroom, whereas it is actually only a carefully orchestrated shadow of the real thing. An exhibition in histrionics par excellence. The UCC is not particularly concerned with Social Security account numbers, including such an option on the filing forms. Never does. The UCC filing office located in each state and elsewhere provides public notice of private matters and is concerned primarily with identifying those registered within by name only, just like it was 100 years ago before the Federal Reserve Act and Social Security Act, which was implemented in 1936. When a man's name, honor, and reputation were his most valuable personal possessions and upon which his entire future depend is no small part. What you have to understand is that most of the time they often try to use your Social Security number or your name attached to it because it's about disfranchisement. You have to realize that no matter what, you have to understand the duplicity of the legal system. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of people who often encounter the legal system, such as myself, have to realize that there are two natures. See, they tell you when you go to jail and you serve your time, you serve your debt to society. But you have to realize that that also impacts your socioeconomic growth on the outside, because the court system understands one thing, but the public system, as far as housing, as far as employment, as far as anything that is necessary or necessitated systematically for you to actually exist, will always look at it as a red mark. That's why I tell people about status correction. Correcting your status means that you totally cast off the entity in which they wish you to be, and then you put on the new persona in which you actually wish to perpetrate your business. There's nothing illegal about that. Because you have to realize that the straw man, if you wish to go by that way, you're going to lose. So many people walk around saying they're a felon, they're a felon, they're a felon. Or I'm this, I'm that. But you're not. Your straw man is. But you can't tell that to the common person because the common person doesn't get it. The common person will never get it. The common person is only going to be led by sensuality, by indoctrination, or by some sort of direction, which is by force, which is by systematic force, which they have no say-so in. I hear people say all the time, what are we going to do? It's not about what we're going to do. It's about what you're going to do. Don't worry. There is no we when it comes to light. See, my mother gave birth to a singular male. She didn't give birth to billions of individuals. So there is no we. You see what I'm saying? There is no we. You see, the people need to get that. And when it comes down to your economic, your cultural, your socio, your financial survival, you better start learning the language of the bankers. Whether you believe it's important to your education or not, which is one of the reasons why they always left it outside of the public full system, is that they knew that if you learned the rules and you learned them on a level par excellence above theirs, then guess what? There is no more winning. And I know it's very hard for people who have been oppressed, whether it be in any way, social, psychosocial oppression or cultural oppression, whatever. It is what it is. I don't care what race you are or whatever you think you are or whatever property you think you possess. You are being affected by the same system. Now, based upon your compliance within regards to that system, they might take it easy on you because you are a paying customer. But to the dissidents, such as myself, it is often very hard. Well, in respects to them trying to get something from me, it's never the other way around because I don't expect nothing or want anything from them. See what I'm saying? So it's hard, and it's a path that I can handle because I've been through enough socio-cultural experience in this so-called United States Incorporated to deal with it. I've been through enough. You know what I'm saying? And certain things in people's, their finite mind where they believe that they're infallible, it might seem wrong. But trust me, you can't look down on a person's social situation when you don't even know what might happen to you tomorrow. And then you have to also take it into consideration, if it does happen to you tomorrow, will you be properly and adequately prepared? I don't think so, because you live in a cloud of your imagination and you have a false sense of security of being treated better than others. You're only treated better because you provide an impetus that otherwise will grant you those particular rights, because guess what? You're a compliant slave and the system's fine with you. You see what I'm saying? They're fine with you. They're cool with you paying fiat. They're cool with you paying their salaries. They're cool with you paying their mortgages. They're fine with that. They love it. There is no such thing as privilege in this country. The only thing that it acquires privilege is obedience. That's privilege. See, if you are nice and compliant, you're privileged. If you bow down submissively to the occupying authority called DC Corporation, that's privilege. But if you're not, such as my melanated brothers and sisters who are not even citizens of the United States, but we still go steadily along calling ourselves that, we have to understand that there are two Americas. Yes, people, there are. And the reason why I say on my channel, particularly to all audiences and any individual variation, doesn't matter. Even to the agents, it doesn't matter. I speak facts. America is not for the melanated. It's not. Period. That's why we determine ourselves on our own, not in a group, not in identity extremism. How the fuck can you be extreme in your identity? That's insane. But that was a coin that was turned by the Southern Poverty Law Center to otherwise slander people who are self-determined. See, a man with determination is a very dangerous thing, especially when it's in the more positive aspects of financial education. But I know the system that wants just a bunch of fat dummies running around here without knowing what may happen in the future. Yeah, they're cool with that because the agenda works. See, when you start critically thinking, you immediately become an enemy. Because guess what? You know the tricks and the reality behind how the system plays. But the object that we have to implement in our lives is to not be subject to that system and to make sure that we secure our futures securely and let the system feed off the other parasites, because as the system wants to kill out the rest, you ain't going to live off of me. I am so sorry. And you learned a very significant truth in less than 26 minutes. That's the truth. Period. It is the truth. It's a fundamental truth, and it will always be the truth for what it is. And as long as that truth stands, that truth will stand. Period. End of discussion. Stay tuned for the next uploads. Agents, fuck you. This is an important note for you people. You better stay aware. You better stay awake. Don't fall asleep. Peace, light, love. Take care.